I have mixed feelings about this book and Anaïs Nin in general. I personally feel like I would have been better suited to just, it would have served me better to just read her fiction instead of her actual diary. I almost feel like I was misled because people seem to, they like to make such a big deal about these diaries like they're this, seminal work of literature that you just have to, it's like, it's this must read writing, and I just don't feel that way about it. I sympathize for Anais, and I pity her because she had such a terrible father who, I'm pretty sure like touched her and everything. Was a piece of shit who should have been executed for being a fucking pedophile. And he fucked her up. Like, he basically ruined her life, by doing that. Destroyed her psychologically, and made it so that she spent like the rest of her life just chasing, a proper father figure, a healthier one, and never finding it. And I do feel bad for her in the sense that, like, it does seem like, every man that she, kind of looks for this father figure in kind of just takes advantage of her sexually as well. So, there is that whole thing of like the self-fulfilling prophecy. But my problem with her and with the book and in the diary is just that I don't think that there's anything. I don't think it's valuable enough as a work of art. You know what I mean? Like, I don't feel like I didn't really come away from it with anything really. There were some nice turns of phrase. The writing was very elegant at times, and it flowed well, and it was pretty. It was nice, but it didn't like I didn't really gain any kind of insight or new perspective, and it wasn't fun. It wasn't an enjoyable read at all. It was very um, it was distressing at times. It was agitating at others. And the adult Anais Nin, maybe the earlier volumes of the diary, maybe the ones she wrote when she was younger, are more appealing because she was, more innocent, more likable, whatever. Um, but she's just kind of like she has allowed her problems to turn her into an even bigger, maybe not a bigger, but just she's just an asshole. You know what I mean? She's kind of just a bitch, to be honest. I don't really like her very much. I think she's a cheat. It's like, yeah, all that bad stuff that happened to her is true, but she took that and did nothing with it. You know what I mean? She kind of did nothing with it. She's a cheater. She's a bigamist. She's arrogant. She's a spoiled little rich girl. And all of those negative traits kind of they kind of overshadowed everything else for me towards the end. I got to be honest. I'm not really. And this book took me like a whole week to read. I was only going to read it in like a few days. Uh, but it was so, like, it got so exhausting after a certain point that I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it after a while. It's a weird one. It's a weird one. I want to like it, but I just don't. I just really don't. And there were some interesting like uh, characterizations, interesting portraits. Um, but it came across to me as like this woman just doesn't do any favors for herself. She really just she acknowledges it, but she definitely uses the diary as a crutch. She didn't, she just tries to get away with her dysfunctional behavior by writing in the diary. It's like the diary is just her justifying her fucked up life to herself and her negative behaviors. And you know, bear in mind, I'll be honest, I don't like Henry Miller that much either. So this isn't like it's not necessarily a man versus woman thing, but I will say that, as a guy, I don't really relate to the female, struggles as much. And so maybe the book's not for me. Maybe I was just a doomed to be a guest in like a foreign land the whole time reading it. But, I really just, I've read other female writers. I like Doris Lessing. I like Sylvia Plath, and they're just much more likable. And then of course, like the classics, like Jane, the Bronte sisters, and Jane Austen and all of them. I like all of them a lot more. So I don't think it's necessarily that. I don't think it just comes down to gender. The way I see it, and especially like the bits with like Henry and June, they're just gross. Like, I just I don't I see these people. These are not people who are like particularly intelligent or talented in my eyes, you know. This is like a generation. This is like everyone that she writes about in the book. It's a collection of fucking rich twats, you know what I mean? It's just a bunch of rich assholes who like just want to hear themselves talk, and they think that they're just self-important, and they think it's enough to not be, you know, they just like shit on the bourgeoisie or whatever, but they are that. They're totally all that. They're just pretentious, you know. They just have airs of being artists and intellectuals and everything, but I don't think they have anything really of value to offer, you know. I think they're on the peripheries of greatness, and they content themselves with that. They try to hype themselves up as being more than what they really are, but they're mediocre. You know, they're middling talents. And Henry Miller and his wife June, and Anais Nin together are just a bunch of swingers, you know, and it's just like that's all they are. They're glorified swingers, and I really don't like. I don't like any of them. I mean, Henry Miller's annoying to me. You know, I liked parts of Tropic of Capricorn. I liked most of Tropic of Capricorn, but I don't really like any of them. So I don't know why I even decided to read this. To be honest, I think I wanted to read it to get some kind of, in the hopes of getting some kind of insight into like the feminine mindset, or maybe I wanted like a female version of the types of writers that I like. Maybe I wanted a female Henry Miller. And I kind of got that, and I understood parts of it. I understood their relationship. I understood how it was productive. You know, they were opposites. They complemented each other very well. And she bankrolled his book, you know, which is huge. But you know, I think the things that make Miller likable go beyond his masculinity. I think it's the fact that he was poor. You know, he was a self-made writer. Many writers and artists are, you know, they come from privilege, they come from wealth, because you need that leisure. You know, you need to be able to afford leisure in order to pursue art most of the time. You know, let's be honest. And he embodied that starving artist archetype, and he's kind of like a stand-in for a lot of people who kind of think that edgy like fantasy of like going to Europe and like, I don't know, just going to different countries, traveling the world and sleeping with a bunch of women, and you know, just kind of like getting drunk every night and everything. That's appealing to a lot of people, you know. So he works as that. But even Miller, I would say, is not particularly like, he's not that talented to me. He's just not like, you know, who the fuck am I, right? But like, he's not that talented to me. He's not as smart or talented or insightful as other writers, you know. And not everybody can be Dostoevsky. I get that. But like, even like someone like, I don't know, Karl Ove Knausgaard, you know, or Rachel Cusk, you know, modern writers. There are a bunch of there are modern writers who are more talented than Miller is. Miller is mid, you know, and Anais is painfully mid, and I think I would have been better off just reading her actual fiction, her books, like the whatever, all the weird shit like House of Incest and stuff. I think that would actually be better, and I don't even like that kind of writing, but I would probably have gotten more out of reading that than this diary. I don't think the diary is like all that. I don't think it's like required reading at all, you know? Not for women especially. I mean, she's a terrible, you know. I can't imagine, I mean, I'm me, but I can't imagine her being relatable to very many people. I think she's kind of a spoiled, she's a typical, I mean, there's a lot of people like that. She's one of these like socialite artists, you know? She's a socialite writer who, you know, she's like, she had a lot of fancy parties probably, you know. She had, or not parties, she has an impressive list of social contacts, and she lived in, you know, a bunch of different interesting places, and you know, she had that kind of culture, culture, you know, acculturement, however you could say it, like process of being brought up, you know, with all of like the advantages of you know, wealth, and just kind of art, like, you know, kind of like art, and like, you know, just cultured living. Even if she didn't have like a bunch of money, she was brought up in like a cultured existence, you know. But that's who she is. She's kind of just, she drones on. She likes to hear herself talk, and she refuses to take action. She has a lot of problems, and she's completely unsympathetic to me because she doesn't take any action about them. She doesn't do anything about them. She's happy to just kind of sit through therapy and like hear herself talk and impress people. You know, she wants to win over the men in her life, and that's, you know, it's this compulsive thing that her dad forced onto her, and I feel sorry for her about that. But, you know, she's like an adult. By the time you read this book, she's an adult, and she should get a grip, you know. There should come a time where she takes some action, and she knows it, and that's why I don't feel sorry for her, because she's so self-aware of it and just does nothing, and, you know, just contents herself to be this, she'll boss around her gardener and her servants and everything, her serving staff, but she won't and I get that it's the old days. Therapy's not what it is. Therapy wasn't what it is now. I understand that. Psychoanalysis was basically like this weird, self-indulgent, stupid thing at the time. I get it. But she doesn't do herself any favors. You know what I mean? She doesn't really. She's just kind of a bitch. I don't. That's all I really have to say about her. You know. She's kind of just a bitch, and I don't feel my sympathy for her has gone out the window. I actually, before I read, I read some the only reason I'm even reading this is because I read some standalone quotes from her here and there, and her writing is good. She has like the potential. She had the potential to be a much better writer than she was, but she kind of at least for the diary, it's exhausting, and it ruined it for me. Reading it, it's not it just ruined it for me. You know what I mean? She's too much, and there's too much strife and not enough like value. It's not worth it. There's no, it's not about catharsis because it is real. It is real, and in real life there usually isn't a lot of catharsis or these big revelations or anything. I understand that, but that being said, there's like nothing of value to me in the book. There's nothing of value. There's a few nice sentences here and there. There's a few quotable portions, and some interesting, character profiles. But for the most part, it's just this. It's this. It's like you're just forced to sit for like 360 pages. You're just forced to sit and just deal with this insufferable person. This fucking insufferable lady who just does nothing to fucking help herself and doesn't even have the fucking common courtesy to give you anything to make you want to stay. I mean, I finished it out of duty. I finished it just because I couldn't stand the thought of I couldn't bear the prospect of like not finishing another book, because I have so many books in my library that I haven't finished as it is, and I really wanted to I just had to do it to myself. But I didn't like it, and I'm probably not the right audience for it, but I didn't like it. And I thought she was I just thought she was and that whole thing of like her being like an archetype, her being like a champion of other women and everything. It's just bullshit to me. I don't know. It's just gross. She's just gross. Especially the scene with like the miscarriage. There's just something really gross about it. She should not be a mother. She should not be a wife. She should try to just get her shit together, And therapy at the time, again, therapy being kind of goofy at the time. I don't really know, like, but because it's like she doesn't even enjoy it. She doesn't even seem to enjoy being like all, bohemian and weird and stuff. She doesn't. I don't know what she wants, but she's kind of just. She comes across in the book as just doomed. It's like just doomed and insufferable, and at best just something someone to be pitied. At best, just an object of pity. That's not good. That's not a good way to live. But she doesn't do anything about it. She doesn't do shit about it. And then she gets like an attitude. She gets haughty about like, oh, well, at least I'm not, I don't know, at least I'm not a fucking practical American who only cares about, things that are, of practical worth. At least I like to live in my own head all the time and just fucking, at least I like to live in my head all the time and just indulge in purple prose. It's like, okay, whatever. I didn't really like it. I gave it a chance. I kind of followed along for a while. But the ending kind of, the ending with the miscarriage and everything, there's just something about it kind of ruined it for me. She kind of just like, it just left a bad taste in my mouth. But the whole thing, too. It kind of revealed the whole thing as just bullshit, Ugh, I mean, this is my opinion. This is my reaction. Like, that's it. I feel like this straining to come up with anything is just, that's like the best review I can give. And maybe that means I'm a fucking idiot or whatever, but, I see it more as like, that's what it is. That's what this warrants. That's what this fucking thing deserves is just, It's not very good. I didn't like it. I thought it was really bad, actually, and I'm glad I don't have to read it anymore. Um, and it was it's weird because to be more specific about it, it was well made. She put a, it was well developed. She definitely has a very unique voice. She does, but she's not very. She's just like an overgrown, and that's who she is. She's an overgrown child. She's a socialite with a lot of with deep rooted psychological issues, and she channels them into some really pretty writing, some beautiful writing at times, you know. But I don't think she has like I don't think she has, opinions. That's the thing. I don't think she has like she's not like maybe even like you could say cuz I don't want to sound, cuz people are going to probably just say I'm fucking sexist or whatever, but it's like, she's not like fucking goddamn um, I mean, Ayn Rand, people seem to kind of shit on her too. But Ayn Rand is someone who had an actual vision of the world, at least, the fountainhead. That's like a thing, It's just, I don't think that Anais Nin has a thing. This is how I have to talk about her. I can't even like articulate it fully. But it's like she just doesn't have a thing. Sylvia Plath had a thing. Austen definitely had a thing. There are plenty of female writers who have like let me just say a concrete, explicit worldview. Nin, not so much. Nin's just got a nutcase. Nin is a fucking head case. And she really just, her solution, she said it herself plenty of times in the book, and that's what's frustrating about it. She just has to take action, you know? She probably, I mean, if anything, I mean, she's just someone who comes, it's like, just get a fucking job, you know? Work, do something, like, find something other than just the fucking listening to yourself talk all the time. It's just annoying, you know? It's just depressing. It's like, ugh, you're just gonna die miserable because you just fucking, you sat around, in this like weird psychological feedback loop, you know? She created I mean it's like she said at the beginning with her house, it's a gilded cage, and her books or her diary is a gilded cage, and it's effective. It's effective, but it's stifling and it's agonizing, and I just don't want to have anything to, I just want to get out of it now. And maybe that's, it definitely it packed a punch. It packed a punch, but I don't really see like what that adds up to, honestly. I don't like, I don't understand women better from having read her, you know. I don't think she's that. I don't think she's that. I think some people want her to be, but I think those people are like I literally think that the only people like Henry Miller and all of them are just people who, they like the pipe dream. They like the fantasy of being them. They just want to live vicariously through them, but they don't actually like, they don't like literature in the full sense of like, coming away from it with a broadened with broader horizons and a tempered, an improved perspective. Nin is just kind of she's just she's just a problem person. She's just got a lot of issues, and I wish she would have resolved them in her time, but she couldn't. But she contented herself to just be like this really middling writer, who kind of has nothing to offer really at the end of the day. If you really, if you dig into her psyche like she forces you to in this diary, it's like, oh yeah, you should have just like worked on your problems, and then maybe she could have been an effective writer. Who the fuck knows? But it's this tragic, unsatisfying mess. That's what it is. And but there's no through line to it. It wasn't fun to read. It wasn't I didn't thrill at it. It wasn't deep. It wasn't insightful. It was just kind of annoying, It was just this annoying, miserable experience. It was like misery porn. I didn't enjoy it at all. I don't get it. If someone in the comments, feel free. I am perfectly willing to accept that I might be off base here or whatever, but I just didn't fucking like it. I just didn't like it at all, and that's all I've got to say.